monarch butterfly is perhaps the most well-known butterfly species in North America. Its iconic wing coloring and patterns are hard to miss. It's also a very important pollinator species. While it's most common in the U.S., it can also be seen in southern Canada and northern South America. It's also been sighted in Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Morocco, and continental Portugal. Some years it can even be sighted in parts of the UK, where it migrates accidentally. Together with other milkweed butterfly species, it belongs to the family Nymphalidae, genus Danaus. Its reliance on milkweed plants has rightly tied the butterfly and the plant in a tight association in people's minds. Its extensive migration pattern also earned it the nickname of wanderer butterfly. The monarch butterfly is well known for its striking appearance. This butterfly has elongated forewings and a pure orange ground color. Both the forewings and hindwings are delineated all around by a regular, narrow, dark brown or black border. The fringes have multiple rows of small white oval shapes. There are 2 rows of white spots running diagonally across each forewing. The wings also display dark-colored veins that stand out against the main orange colors. This butterfly has a wingspan of up to 4 inches, which in a statistical anomaly is bigger than most of my viewers' male sex organs. The monarch butterfly is currently listed as endangered by the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. Monarchs are threatened by pesticides, including toxic neonicotinoids and herbicides, which are killing off the milkweed plants they need to survive, as well as urban development and climate change. In terms of loss of milkweed plants, monarchs do feed on the nectar of many flowers, but they only lay their eggs on certain types of milkweed plants. Unfortunately, milkweeds are often eradicated as noxious weeds. Urbanization, industrialization does this. Large-scale farms and drought conditions have also resulted in a significant plant loss. Another threat that monarchs are facing is the loss of winter habitat. The butterfly's winter habitat in Mexico and California is rapidly shrinking due to deforestation, harsh weather, development, and other disruptions. Because all monarchs gather in only a few locations, the overall population is at risk. Climate change, as mentioned before, especially during the last decade and going forward, changes in the climate have resulted in more out-of-season storms, severe temperature drops, and excessive rain. The combination of both wet and cold is deadly for the monarchs and results in the deaths of hundreds of millions of butterflies. The monarch pollinates things like yarrow, aster, calendula, milkweed, like you would come to expect. And though butterflies are not as effective as bees in pollinating plants and crops, they certainly do their fair share in bringing about seed and fruit production that we end up eating. So female monarchs lay their eggs on the underside of poisonous milkweed leaves. As the caterpillar hatches, it first eats its own egg, then switches to a diet of milkweed leaves. The milkweed toxins remain permanently in the monarch system. Predators such as fire ants and spiders do eat monarch eggs and caterpillars, and then some birds and wasps feed on adult butterflies. Adult monarchs face less of a danger of being eaten by predators during the breeding season, which is in spring, March, April. The monarchs migrate north from Mexico, and they breed in the southern United States in March and April, and then they die. But there's a greater risk of being eaten by bird predators in overwintering locations. California, Mexico. So birds such as the black-backed oriole, the black-headed grosbeak are common predators at monarch overwintering sites. These species of birds can eat large quantities of monarchs without getting poisoned. The toxins staying in the system that we talked about from the milkweed plants that they love. And this may result these birds not getting poisoned from the decay of toxins inside of the monarch's bodies during the many months of migration and overwintering. And as we're going to mention, there's a generation of butterflies that lives much longer than the standard monarch. And this gives it seems, potentially the time for these toxins to decay and for that natural protection that the butterfly has to not be effective against birds who want to eat a bunch of them in these places where they congregate to overwinter. Something else that I want to mention is that these birds form specific eating patterns or habits, for monarchs, like the oriole. And this is going to, a little warning here that this is going to get a little bit graphic on the monarch side. So here that goes. The oriole will slit open the monarch's abdomen before feeding, avoiding most of the toxin-rich cuticle. On the other hand, grosbeaks, which eat the entire abdomen, can tolerate higher levels of cardenolides in their digestive tracts. Research has shown that predation by these two bird species accounts for over 60% of the total monarch mortality during overwintering. In some colonies, up to 9% of the butterflies are eaten by birds during the winter, and these numbers can be up to 15% when the forest is disturbed by logging, making it easier for the birds to reach the branches on which the monarchs cluster. So, birds and wasps, these predators are easy to see, but monarchs also suffer attacks from parasites and parasitoids, which we'll go into a little bit right now. Perhaps the most studied parasite of monarchs is the protozoan parasite called Ophriocistis electroscira, or OE. This parasite cannot be transferred between larvae or adults simply by contact. New infections occur when larvae ingest parasite spores that fall from the abdomen of an infected adult to the surface of milkweed leaves. Most spores are transmitted from infected adults to their offspring, vertical transmission, although horizontal transmission may also occur. After host pupation, the parasite undergoes sexual reproduction and forms dormant spores around the scales of the developing adult butterfly. Most spores form on the adult abdomen, although spores also develop on the wings, head, and thorax. Now we'll go to a parasitoid. The best studied monarch parasitoid is the tachnid fly, Lespecia archipovora, or LA, which attacks larvae, resulting in the death of late instar larvae or pupae. This parasitoid is widespread through North and Central America. It has been found in Brazil and was purposely introduced to Hawaii for biocontrol in 1998. Monarch larvae in the continental U.S. and Hawaii are frequently parasitized by LA, and the Monarch Larva Monitoring Project documented an overall parasitism rate of 13%. Females lay eggs on the host's skin, and the fly larvae hatch and bore into the host soon after. Their larval development within the host. The maggots emerge from late larvae or pupae, and then pupate in leaf litter and enclose within 10 to 14 days. Fly maggots drop to the ground on long, gelatinous tendrils that look like white strings hanging from the monarch. Bada bing, bada boom. That's some of the freaking threats that the monarch faces in its journey up and down and up and down and up and down again.